Well, the Detroit Tigers put up some runs finally, but still fall short. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, April 19th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Friday to all. Hopefully, you all had a great week, and we can send you off into the weekend with a good show here. The Tigers, unfortunately, lost on Thursday afternoon by a score of 9-7 at home at the hands of the Texas Rangers. Let's get right into it because there's a lot to talk about in this game. 9-7 final, and that will officially, they lose the series, obviously. 4-game set. They drop 3 of 4 games here. What went wrong in this one? Look no further than Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda goes 2 2/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, 5 of them earned, 2 walks, just 2 strikeouts, and 3 home runs against. As a general rule, if you give up more home runs than innings you pitch, that's usually not a great sign. There's a few things like that. If you give up more home runs than the amount of strikeouts you have, that's usually not a great sign. Kenta Maeda did both of those things, less than 3 innings pitched and fewer than 3 strikeouts, and 3 home runs given up in the outing. Really rough day at the office, absolutely brutal. The splitter was horribly commanded. There was really no other... The fastball was completely ineffective. The splitter, he is supposed to be a pitch that is down. It's low, right? That's the whole point. It looks like a fastball, and then it dies, and it completely crashes and falls off the table, right? He was putting splitters in the strike zone all day, and that's just like not the point of a splitter. And pretty high in the zone at times as well. That Adolis Garcia home run, I mean, that was a belt high, 80 whatever mile an hour splitter. It's not going to be too effective very often. So there really isn't too much to break down. Like, everything wasn't very good. We used to say this sometimes last year, and Brian and I said it a few times during the hockey season as well, and I'm sure we'll bring it up at points in the future on this show, but like, there are some times when you're analyzing a game or breaking down a game, there are things that are so good or so bad that there isn't even really any analysis on them, because it's just like, whatever you want to talk about, it didn't go well. That was pretty much this outing. So there's not really too much else to say. Talking about this as a whole, I know a lot of people are already like, get him off the team, etc., DFA him, whatever. He's not going to go to Toledo. I saw that. That's not going to happen. If he's going to get off the team, he's going to be cut outright or DFA'd or whatnot. He's had a lot of bad Aprils, okay? And I can already hear and moaning and see eyes rolling. Hear me. I'm not trying to go to bat for this guy, no pun intended. Just hear me out. He's had a lot of really bad Aprils in his career, pretty much his entire career, actually. His stats in April have been consistently horrible. That's not me trying to convince anyone that he's going to magically get better on April 1st, but it's objectively the truth. And the reason why this isn't me going to bat for him is because I tend to side on the pessimistic side of this. He's 36 and throwing 88 with no command of his splitter, which is like the whole reason he's had a good major league career. And obviously it's, he has a lot of different pitches when he was at his best, had a lot of different pitches in his arsenal and used to throw in the low 90s, right? But that splitter is the pitch that everything else is built around. Everything else in his repertoire is determined. The effectiveness is determined by the splitter. So we'll see is like the best thing I can tell you right now. I can't really inject too much optimism into this. He's on a 2-year deal. So like it or not, he's not getting cut tomorrow. He's not getting cut on April 19th. I'm not telling you he's going to turn it around. I'm not telling you he's going to be great. I'm not trying to sell you optimism. He's been really brutal so far. I'm just being honest. He's not getting cut tomorrow. He's going to make his next start, assuming he's healthy, in 5 days. Don't shoot the messenger. I don't know what else to tell you in that regard. But I am not optimistic about seeing his name as the probable pitcher right now. I don't think anyone is. Again, there's not really too much else to talk about in this game surrounding him. All of it was bad. The fastball had nothing. It was completely ineffective. Didn't get a single swing and miss on it. No surprise. The splitter, he had no clue where it was going. The slider was a nothing burger in this outing. Not a very good day at the office. Simple as that. All right. The defense, terrible again. I mean, my goodness. Torkelson again. I don't think he got tagged for an error for that because it was a diving play and then a throw. But it wasn't even necessarily the throw per se. It's just like all of his decisions he makes in the field are like always in question. We always have to question, like, should he have thrown that ball? He hesitated. He like almost went home for a second and then decided to go to second, and then it was a close play. If he just knows what he's doing, the second he catches that ball, then he's maybe not as rushed, and that's a much easier play. It's really easy to nitpick his defense. I'm not trying to kick him while he's down, but it's easy because he's been so brutal defensively his entire major league career. Colt Keith, yet again. Dang it. Like that's pretty much what I thought. Like, you've got to be kidding. It just sucks. Ball bounced out of his glove. Matt Vierling pulled a Ryan Rayburn. Rayburn didn't do it in Detroit. He did it in Cleveland, I want to say. But just completely was going to throw a ball in and it just slipped out of his hands. Like, Riley Green misplayed a ball in the ninth, I think. Look, maybe that's one where I'm being too critical and I'm just totally wrong and off base here. I don't have the Riley Green angle, right, or like perspective on that play, but he hesitated. He was going in on the ball and then he hesitated and then he went back and just let it bounce. I think he could have gotten that ball. It didn't matter because the offense couldn't score after the 4th inning. We'll talk about that in a second. And then Gio Urshela, what on earth? Like he got tripped, but like that doesn't affect your ability to complete a tag. It was after. He got tripped after he had already big swing and a miss. Just inexcusable stuff. That's 6 errors in 2 games. We've done nothing but pump air into this defense all season and they've deserved it. It's not it wasn't a figment of our imagination. Like, they were good defensively. And then these last 2 games, they've just been absolutely terrible. There's an argument they lost each of the last 2 games because of poor defense. Or it was a big factor. I don't really believe in like one thing caused a win or a loss, especially in baseball. But you get the point. All right, got a couple more things on what went wrong, and then we'll talk about what went right in this game because they did score 7 runs, and there was some good to take out of it. All right, we will talk about all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and in the NHL. Absolutely devastating that the Detroit Red Wings are on the outside looking in because of a tiebreaker. They had more wins than the Capitals and Flyers. They had more wins, but not regulation wins. So they're at home. That being said, there's still a lot of fun action, obviously. Nothing like the hockey postseason and NBA playoffs are always an electric factory. And right now, you can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed if you're a new customer on FanDuel. It's $150, win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday recapping this series against the Minnesota Twins. We'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the show, too. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for your everyday sports needs. The biggest stories, you can stream it now, again, on YouTube, Locked On Sports Today, or for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So, talking about this 9-7 loss at the hands of the Texas Rangers, something else that went wrong in this ball game. I really don't want to be like negative Nancy and come on here and complain about the offense when they just put up 7 runs. But the offense after the 4th inning, it was the same. It was the same. And again, I'm not trying to be like a jerk and just like come on here, but everyone's talking about how, like the offense finally showed up and the pitching and defense sucked. That's all true, I guess, like objectively, right? This was arguably the best offensive showing of the year. It's the second most runs they've scored in a game so far this season. That being said, this was a close game, and it was tied for most of it. It was tied for almost the entire second half of it, and the team completely reverted back to just getting on base and then doing nothing with runners in scoring position. They did not score a run after the 4th inning. They scored in 2 innings. They scored 7. They scored in 2 individual innings. The first 4 innings were fantastic offensively. We'll talk about that in a second when we talk about what went right. But a majority of the game, innings 5 through 9, that is a majority of the game. You did nothing again with your opportunities. And it was a close game against your other team's bullpen. All of your earned runs were off of Leiter. You ambushed a fastball thrower in his major league debut, and that was it. You had 2 on and 1 out in the 8th with Carpenter and Torkelson up and did nothing. So, again, we're in 2 seconds. We're about to talk about what went right offensively, which plenty did. I'm not trying to say this was a bad offensive performance, okay, before I have to read about how that's what I said when it's not what I said. But in the entire second half against Jose Urena, for most of it, you continued to just get runners on base and not hit them home, and it cost you. It cost you the game. You had an opportunity to win. You had 7 runs through 4 and ended with 7. And 7 wins you a lot of ball games, obviously. Again, good offensive showing. We'll talk about it here. But when your back was against the wall and the game was actually on the line, you looked how you've looked all season. What went right? As I said, you jumped all over Jack Leiter, which is great. The Tigers averaged just under an 100-mile-an-hour exit velocity against his fastball, and they put like 10, 11, 12 balls in play off of it. They smoked it. They absolutely crushed his heater, and that's the goal. That's what the game plan should have been, and I'm glad that they did it. The second inning specifically was beautiful. The second inning might have been legitimately the best single inning of offense they have had all calendar year so far. Everyone, it really felt like everyone knew exactly when Leiter was going to go to the fastball and what counts he was going to go to the fastball, and they were absolutely all over it. The situational awareness of every hitter as well. Carson Kelly, for instance, batting 9, just knowing, put the ball in play, score a run here. That's what he did. Awesome sight. The second inning was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The whole team really was incredible, and their approach and their decision making. What counts to be aggressive in, what counts to not be, what to sit on in what counts. masterclass. Okay. Now that was one half of an inning, and that's why you lost. But that inning was really good. Baez and Torkelson early in the game, solid. Both crushed fastballs in this game, which is a sight to behold and something that I'm going to at least smile about in the moment because, my goodness, I didn't think it was possible for either of them based on how they've looked so far this season. Javi pulled two fastballs. Each had an exit velocity over 108 miles an hour, like just smoked them. Absolute, the two hardest hit balls of the game were Javi. Absolutely crushed them. Both were fastballs. Torkelson was on time for a 97-mile-an-hour fastball right down the middle, but you should be hitting that. So good job. And again, got that double there on that one. I actually thought Javi had solid ABs all game. I thought his decision-making and counts was good. He was laying off sliders low and away against Leclerc. That all being said, both of them were up with runners in scoring position late in the game, and neither of them did anything. So it's tough. Your pitching gave up 9 runs, right? I'm not trying to make this sound. I've spent more time talking about the offense because there's not anything else to say on the pitching side of things. That's all. The pitching, the starting pitching was absolutely brutal and really bad. There's not too much analysis there. The hitting in this game, we can actually break down what went right and what went wrong specifically. So I don't want to make it sound like I'm blaming this loss entirely on the offense when the pitching gave up 9 runs. But again, last 5 innings of the game, you got shut out, and that's not a recipe for success either. Okay. They can all be true, I guess is my point. Something that I try to preach a lot here. Riley Green, I thought in this game, sans his first at bat, the 3-pitch strikeout. Interesting call to give a guy in his major league debut, by the way. What happened to rookies got to earn some calls. But after that AB, he was fantastic. He looked like he was seeing the ball really well. Slapped the ball the other way, which is good to see. Fastball outside, just, threw the barrel on it and sent it the opposite way. Double, triple, a walk. I mean, he was everywhere. He looked absolutely fantastic in this one. Hopefully he can keep that momentum going, and he should be the leadoff hitter every day until anyone else proves that they're worthy of getting, the most at bats on the team on a game-to-game basis. I think Riley Green should be the leadoff hitter for the foreseeable future. Mark Canha, another really good day at the office as well. Dude just gets on base, man. He's not going to hit a great average, but he should be batting in the top of the lineup, like objectively. There's no argument for him not to be hitting in the top 4 or I guess 5 at worst in this lineup right now because he just gets on base and grinds out at bats, and I really enjoy watching him at the plate. Alex Lang, something that went right in this game. He was incredible. That was the Alex Lang that I remember from May of last season. That was him. For 2 batters, that was him. Perfect execution. Even his misses were like good points in the count, like situationally to miss, right? You obviously can't throw 100% strikes. And I think that even when he was missing, it was like, okay, that's a good count to try something and miss on, right? Now go back to the zone and put that curveball low and into Langford, like etc. He was great. He was setting up his stuff really, really well. It was risky to go to him, absolutely, in that moment. And if he would have walked in a run, Hinch would have heard it from everybody in the fan base, probably myself included. But the reason he went to him is what we saw, right? He also, even though he is a walk machine, still has the best swing and miss stuff on the team, at least in that bullpen. This was a great outing, and I hope it's a sign of things to come. I'm not holding my breath about it. I'm not exactly instilled with confidence that it is, but I hope it is. I really do. Okay, let's talk about some more. Take a step back. We'll do our stuff section. Talk about some other just notable things from this game, from this series as a whole, and then we'll look ahead to Minnesota. We'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Prize Picks. Spring training is obviously well in the past now, and baseball season is officially underway. So don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your Prize Picks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. You can get in on all the playoff action as well and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take on the game to a whole new level. This basketball postseason, the playoffs are this weekend begin, and I absolutely cannot wait. On top of basketball's postseason and hockey's postseason, you obviously also just have baseball every day, and I say it every day, but I really do love just going through and looking at where these numbers are at for certain starting pitchers and their strikeout totals, right? More or less on, a certain amount of strikeouts is always a really easy and fun way to watch the game of baseball. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all so much for tuning in, as always. So, talking about this loss to the Rangers, we talked about what went right, what went wrong. The pitching was obviously not very good. Kenta Maeda struggling a lot. I said earlier, like, he's going to make his next start. He's not, unless he's hurt or something. Like, they're not going to cut ties with him tomorrow or this weekend. But I do wonder what the leash is for a guy on a 2-year deal, right? Like, especially if you're trying to be competitive, you can't set with how he's looked so far this year. You can't send, he has a 7.6 ERA. Like, you can't send that out there every fifth day for even like the first half of the season, right? And I think that they're probably looking at the fact that he is historically every year of his career a slow starter. But I think by like the middle or end of May, if it's not working out, they might bite the bullet, even though it is a 2-year deal. This doesn't feel like, at least they shouldn't, right? If you just pocket him for the year and he has a 6 or 7 ERA, that's inexcusable stuff by this front office. So we'll keep an eye on it. Again, I'm not. Don't shoot the messenger. Like, I'm not trying to say he's been good or that he deserves to be going out there every fifth day, but he's not going anywhere, at least in his next couple of starts, at least. So that was obviously the biggest reason. And then the offense just continuing to not come up clutch late. Well, they've scored runs late, so I guess that's not really fair, but in high leverage situations, they do not come through very often. And they've gotten helped a lot by some really poor defense by the Rangers this series. That's kind of the first thing I want to talk about in this stuff category is like, this was an awful series. Like this was an awful series of baseball. Like, this was sloppy by both teams. We're just terrible. There were errors left and right, misplays that plays that aren't errors, even though a lot of other people have talked about this as well. That baseball just kind of doesn't call errors anymore. So the fact that the Tigers have 3 in each of the last 2 games is honestly even more of a testament to how bad the defense has been. But it just a really ugly series from start to finish. Like, we get shut out in game. It's 1-0 game 1. Again, all the errors and the poor defense in this game, the Rangers, that wasn't an error. The Kerry Carpenter triple, I guess it was. Like, I don't know, man. This was and the Rangers have a lot of players on the IL and have kind of been playing sloppy ball this year. They're 11-9 now on the season. So Leiter, let's talk about his debut a little bit. Obviously, the Tigers got to him, really executed their game plan wonderfully. A lot of credit where credit is due. He's going to have to get more effective secondary stuff and not rely so much on his heater. But the raw talent is present, and you can tell why he was taken highly and why he was so good in college and whatnot. Like, his fastball is a legitimate pitch. It's just he's very fastball heavy because he doesn't have confidence or the ability to execute those secondary stuff, and you're not going to get away with that at the major league level. So he'll take his lumps early, as most throwers do, and when he starts becoming more of a pitcher, I know it's an old cliche, but I think it's really true in his case. Good to see Al Leiter there at the ballpark as well. Wyatt Langford, I'm not trying to make this a Max Clark thing, so everybody calm down, cool the jets, all right? He looked a little bit overmatched, I thought, in this series, but he will be fine. The kid's got a great swing. He is an awesome talent. And the fact that he is playing Major League Baseball, hitting in the heart of the lineup for the World Series champs, is nothing short of remarkable because he deserves it. Like he has proven to be that talented. So just taking his lumps early, like a lot of young players do, as we know more than anybody. But really excited to watch him continue to develop. Again, just as a baseball fan, okay, just detach yourself from the draft pick and whatnot. Let's focus on Max Clark and focus on the player we have. But just as a base from the fan of the game of baseball as a whole, I'm excited to see him continue. But right now, he just looks not very confident and just kind of like overmatched a little bit at the plate. Finally put some decent ABs together on Thursday as well. Wanted to point that out for sure. But this series didn't look too confident at the plate. I think that's pretty much it for the game. Like series as a whole, you dropped 3 of 4 and you had a legit opportunity to win 4 of 4. Not that that's realistic or that they should have necessarily, right? It's tough for me to say that you should have swept a 4-game series against the reigning World Series champs, but like you're not going to win every game in baseball. That's just kind of how it goes. But every single game this series was a 2 or 1 run game. Bad defense cost you. Poor timely hitting cost you a lot this series. Bad mental mistakes cost you a lot this series, and an awful start by your starter on Thursday cost you. And even all of that being considered, every single game was close and winnable late. Not even like, oh, it was close in the 4th. Like every single game was a nail biter. Every single game you had an opportunity to win. You had an opportunity late to take the lead. You had an opportunity to win. But again, the Rangers are also banged up, have a lot of players on the IL, and didn't look sharp either. And they still took 3 or 4 from you at home. You're at home, obviously, the Tigers. It's just frustrating that you had an opportunity to make this series look significantly different and just kind of fell flat on your face there. That's it's frustrating, and it's early, et cetera, all the things we usually say. But that is this team's next step. They're playing in a boatload of close games. They showed a graphic that right now they're on pace. The Tigers, Bally showed a graphic. They're on pace for like 72 one-run games, which would be like the second or third most in the history of baseball. Now, on pace in April, we'll see. But like early on, they were playing in so many close games, and they just need a little bit more to get over the hump. And traditionally, I would say they need a little bit more offense to get over the hump. But again, they scored 7 runs in this one, and it wasn't enough. But again, I don't need to break down the first half, second half of the game to you anymore. Let's talk about this weekend. You play the Minnesota Twins. You just played them a week ago. Last weekend, you have a 3-game set against them. This one's in Minnesota, so you're on the road. Joe Ryan versus Jack Flaherty, game 1. Reese Olson versus Bailey Ober, game 2. And Casey Mize versus Louis Varlin, game 3. You've already seen all of these guys this year. So all 3 of these guys you've already hit against. So a week ago. So hopefully, maybe, this is an opportunity to take advantage and actually have the offense show up, consistently. Maybe. The Twins are banged up and also really struggling. You should take advantage. I don't want to say you have to because it's April, but you really, really should take advantage of this weekend because you also have the Rays immediately after on the road. The Rays are a good ball team. If you lose this series, you might find yourself in a position where you're going to start slipping fast. Because you have the Rays, then you have the Royals, who are playing really good baseball early on in the season. Cardinals to end the month, and then May, obviously, whole different bag of tricks there. So this is You need to take advantage of a Twins team that is 6-11, cannot hit with runners in scoring position. If you think the Tigers' RISP stats are bad, make yourself feel better and go look at the Minnesota Twins runners in scoring position statistics on the year. It's the most absurd thing I've ever seen. And they have a ton of injuries to key players, right? You have to take advantage of this series. You have to go in there and take their lunch money. So go hit first and foremost. Hopefully this is a sign of again, I know I've been kind of sound like I've been complaining about the offense, but like you bullied the starter. Take that momentum into the weekend. Hopefully go beat up on a team that's down. Don't be the Minnesota Twins get right series. We talked about that a lot over the last 2 years. Don't be a pitcher's or a team's get right game. Just win, baby. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday recapping this series against the Minnesota Twins. Be sure to check out the Locked On Tigers postcast. If you listen on audio, you see it in the feed as is. If you are watching on YouTube, you can go look up the Locked On Sports Detroit YouTube channel. Jake doing post-game reactions immediately after the final out of every Tigers game this year. So yeah, be sure to check that out over the weekend as well. And I will see you Monday. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.